Quickly before we start, I just want to say that if you have any series you'd like to see recaps on, leave a comment saying what it is, and if you've enjoyed The Last Kingdom, subscribe. Winchester's been under siege for 30 days, and the Danes are showing no sign of giving up, while the men of Wessex are getting desperate, and Eddard wishes to burn down Winchester. The Danes have found out about these plans, so they wet the thatched roofs daily. The prisoners are also getting desperate, so Ailsa tells them there's a plant that grows in the courtyard that's poisonous. Sigtryggr goes to the prisoners. He tells them that one of Edward's sons has to die, and when they can't choose on one, he decides he'll take them both. Young Uhtred now arrives at the siege after he finds out that his sister Stiorra is one of the captives, and at the same time that he arrives, Sigtryggr appears up on the ramparts. Sigtryggr tells them they want to talk, but Eddard isn't really listening, so Sigtryggr brings up both of his sons. Eddard is now given the difficult choice of choosing one son over the other, and it ends up being a choice he cannot make, so both of his sons remain captives. Uhtred tells Edward that to get his sons out, he himself will go in, as he knows the Danes think he is just as valuable. And so, as Uhtred walks into Winchester, Edward's sons go running out. Uhtred and Brida are reunited in Winchester, and Brida wants him strung up in a cross, but instead, Sigtryggr has Uhtred escorted to the main hall in the palace, and as a small token, Sigtryggr gives Brida Uhtred's sword. The prisoners now brought their food, and Aldhelm trades one of his rings for the flowers of the poisonous plant in the courtyard. He tells his daughter to drink what she wants now, but after she's finished, don't drink any more as the water will be poisoned. Sigtryggr has Uhtred brought to the main hall in the palace, and while Uhtred is expecting him to want to kill him, it turns out he actually wants to negotiate with him. However, unbeknownst to them, Heston is spying on them, and unbeknownst to Heston, Brida is spying on him. Brida asks Heston what they're talking about, and Heston tells her she won't like it, but they're trying to negotiate for a peace with Wessex. She goes up onto the walls of Winchester, and she contemplates how many times she's been betrayed now, and in a moment of madness, she throws Uhtred's sword over the wall, and it is picked up by scavengers who think it would be worth a bit. Ailsa takes a drink from the jug that has been poisoned, and Aldhelm watches as his ploy has been successful. After Uhtred's sword is returned to him, Eldred feels they've given him enough time and it's time to press forward and attack. Ethelred has also arrived with her army from Mercia, and together they come up with a plan. They will smoke the defenders off the walls, which will make it easier to ram down the gate. And so, the attack begins, with men hurling flaming sacks at the walls, enveloping the defenders in smoke and forcing them to retreat. True to his word, Heston has looked after Edith all this time, and he now wishes to escape with her, but Edith says she will stay in the city. Most of the defenders gone, the men of Wessex now begin ramming at the gate, and after a few tries, the gate finally gives way and they go pouring into Winchester. Sigtryggr and Uhtred watch this unfold, and Sigtryggr tasks Uhtred with going to Edward and telling him that they still want to negotiate. Uhtred wades his way through the bodies, and eventually gets to Edward and tells him that Sigtryggr wants to negotiate, and when he has his word the men will stop attacking, Uhtred signals to Sigtryggr and he tells him that they want to negotiate too. And now with the fighting behind them, Edward and Ethelred are invited into the palace in Winchester. Uhtred is walking around Winchester, waiting for the negotiations to finish, when he is snuck up on by Brida, and she stabs him in the side. Brida continues to swing wildly at Uhtred, and even though he is injured, she is no match for him. He eventually gets her pinned up against the wall with his sword pointed at her throat, but instead of killing her, he tells her to leave Winchester. The negotiations have finished, and they've agreed that Sigtryggr will never enter Wessex or Mercia, and in return, he'll be the Lord of Eoforwic, and he'll also get Uhtred's daughter. Uhtred is disgusted with them, considering the lengths he went to protect Ethelred's daughter when she wasn't happy for her to marry Eadulf. Uhtred goes to his daughter, and he asks her what she thinks of it. She says there's no place for her in Cookham, and that she wants to go off with Sigtryggr, so Uhtred relents. Edward also goes to Uhtred. He tells him that it isn't safe for Ethelstan in Winchester. He'd like him to travel with Uhtred until he's old enough to return. Young Uhtred is also going back to his monastery, so himself and his father embrace one last time, and after they are done, Uhtred watches as the children say their goodbyes. Finally, Uhtred takes on his role as the protector of Ethelstan, and the two of them set off on their adventures. With that, we've come to the end of The Last Kingdom. It's been quite an enjoyable series to watch and also make these recaps, so if you've enjoyed, subscribe, and I'll be back with more recaps soon.